Hello class, welcome to lesson 13. This is our final lesson of new material. Next week will be mostly reflection and preparing for the final. And speaking of the final, I would encourage you to start going over your notes now. At the end of each lesson in the weekly reflection, or the weekly report, it is asked you if you have been reviewing last week's lesson notes and previous lessons notes. And I hope you have been, because that will be a huge help for you on the final exam. So I'd encourage you to just start looking over your notes and maybe revisiting some of the lessons and glancing over the talks and the scriptures we've looked at, just so that you have this extra time to let that information sink into your brain and be ready for the exam. Because the final exam is quite in depth on everything that we've learned this semester. So more on that next week. But I would just encourage you to start looking over your lessons. Okay, so this week we get to look at some really interesting stuff. So let's get started in the lesson material and quiz instructions. And here we get to talk about giving back. And this is really special because each of us has been so blessed in our lives in different ways. We're all in unique circumstances. But we've received a lot of blessings, and I hope that you feel one of those is being able to be part of Pathway. And this lesson is about how to be able to give back when we've received so much. So you'll be reading quotes and talks and being able to really reflect on this. So it should be really good reading through this material. And even better, in my opinion, is what we get to do in the application activity. So let's go there real quick. Let it load. So here you get to read the talk, Beware of Pride, by President Ezra Taft Benson. And again, I feel like last week is a preparation for this week. As we look over our family relationships in the previous week, it takes some humility to be able to truly examine the relationships in our lives and to find ways that we can better them. And this week is all about being able to really see where we're at with pride and humility. And this isn't something to be ashamed of. This is just something that is really good to look at honestly with ourselves often. I know this is something I go over with myself many, many, many times. And I love these 5 questions that we get to ask ourselves after reading Beware of Pride. So it wants you to read through these questions and to see which ones resonate with you, which ones pertain to you right now in your stage of life. Are you overly critical? Do you feel like you deserve things or that you're entitled to things? Do you care too much about indicators of status or rank? So read through these questions and see which ones hit home and just are applicable right now, or something that you can work on even in a tiny way. And then down here in step 3, all you need to do is select 3 of the following items to study. It's got a whole bunch of different things here that you can read or listen to, and it tells you which question that they are most pertinent to. So if you read number 2 and were like, oh, actually I do feel like I deserve a lot in my life right now, that is a word that I use a lot or something similar to that, you could come down and look at the ones pertaining to question 2. That we might not shrink, if thou endure it well. So here's two items that you could read through that would pertain to that idea. And after you read them up, you just need to do a write-up on each of the items you read. Like I said, you'll be just selecting 3 of these items to study. And then you'll be answering these 3 questions for each of those items. So that makes 9 questions, right? 3 for 3 items. 3 times 3 is 9. And then your final question will be answering what are times in your life when you have felt entitled? What thoughts or behaviors trigger your feelings of entitlement? How will you overcome the temptations to feel entitled? And I encourage you to write at least a good paragraph on this. This is something I want you to really reflect on. And to be specific, like it says, what will you do to overcome the temptation to be entitled? And when you're reporting on each of the items you read, it also asks, what specific changes will you make? So as you're considering what you could do, be specific, so specific that you could use that as a SMART goal in the future. And I hope you will, because this is something really impactful to ponder over and to make changes through. So I hope this is helpful. I'm really looking forward to this application activity. I'm going to go and do it myself so that I can be more aware of where I stand right now in my own life. So thank you for taking the time to do this and to view this video, and we'll see you next week.